Hello again, everyone, and welcome to a Labor Day edition of the Fantasy Slant powered by Pro Football Focus. I'm your usual host, Michael Moore, along with our usual Monday co-hosts, Brandon, Marianne Lee, and Mike Tagliere. Yes, the three of us have sacrificed our Labor Day evening for all of you. So that will be our question this evening. Mike, let's start with you. I believe you told us a little bit offline. You were at Grandpa's house celebrating Labor Day. What else did you and the fam do?
So we went over to Grandpa's house because obviously he moved out of there a couple weeks ago because it was our temporary home for like a month. So we went back and visited him. We took him to get some exercise. We went to an outdoor outlet mall. I got a few new shirts, one being Winter Circle. I got to get ready.
I noticed that, Mike. I noticed that. It looks nice.
Thanks. I got to get ready for the season. But yeah, I basically sat there, Grandpa's watching his movies and stuff and just talking with him. And I actually had a notebook full of stats because I was working on football like throughout the day. And I left my stat book there. But as I told you guys, it just goes, that's what I get for working out of a notebook.
Yeah, but is this going to be like Superman, like losing his powers when, you don't have all your stuff ready to go? Like, are you going to be okay? Is it going to be the same Mike? I don't know, Mike.
I certainly hope so. I might just get more mad than usual. I might just kind of like lose it more often because I'm lost. I just, like where I'm not organized. Maybe that's it.
Oh, that'll be fun. Okay. Well, we'll get to Jamal Trails in a minute and see what happens. But Brandon, how about you? What did you do to celebrate Labor Day?
Not much.
Okay.
No, I was recovering from my double draft last night. I did a draft with all the Bleacher Report radio folk, and it started at the exact same time as my family draft, which is intense because obviously I work with my two sisters, so we're not working
at the same time. That is tough.
Yeah. And both of them were actually with people I work with. So that's crazy. But, I have my trophy up behind me. I should go grab it for the family league because I won it this year. My husband won it the year before. And then I won it the year before that. So we just keep it here in the New York side.
3 years in a row. That's pretty solid.
Pretty much. I mean, although my husband completely ignores me. It's hilarious. Or he only listens to part of it. So he did all of his drafts in the last week. He came out with Latavius Murray and DeMarco Murray in every single one of them.
Wow.
And I was like, he's like, well, you said they're good. I was like, no, I said they were good value when you can get them late. And I didn't say go 100% exposure. You just picked it. You picked a little piece of what I said. Mm-hmm. And then you tell people, well, my wife told me. I was like, no. Mm-hmm. I did not do that. So we had some talks. He's like, I can't believe you drafted Todd Gurley. I was like, why would that surprise you? He's like, well, I didn't hear you talk about him. I was like, why would I talk about Todd Gurley? Like, obviously.
Yeah, it kind of depends on where you land in the first round.
That's just we call that selective hearing, though, right?
Well, why would I talk about Todd Gurley? He's a clear person you take. There's nothing to discuss. It's not like, hey, let's have a conversation about Todd Gurley. He's good.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's not like saying, hey, what do you think about Antonio Brown? Well, he's
right. I didn't bring him up either.
Yeah, like I have a hot take on that one. So I don't. Yeah, well, good. And it was a day off for most people. That's what we did. Me and the wife, we went to the zoo. It was delightful. We had hot dogs at my parents' house, and here we are to talk about fantasy football with all of you lovely people. So let's just jump right into it. First, let's do the Sam Bradford trade. That's probably the most noteworthy thing that happened in the last couple of days. So Sam Bradford moving from Philadelphia over to Minnesota. Some people call it a overreaction to the Teddy Bridgewater injury. We'll get to that. But he goes for a first rounder next year and then a conditional pick after that. So, Mike, I think the thinking is this is great news for any Minnesota skill position players, right?
I don't know if it does much for me, honestly. Sam Bradford is, I call it the Jay Cutler syndrome. And when I say that, they gave up a first and a fourth round draft pick for Sam Bradford. And the fact that Sam Bradford is still worth a first round pick blows my mind. I actually was invited onto the Fantasy Pros podcast. It was last week. And they were asking me about Minnesota and what I thought they would do at the quarterback position. And I thought they might wait till further in the year, see where their team's at, how everything's going with Sean Hill. Maybe they're 6 weeks in, they have a good feel for their team and whether or not they're going to be a playoff team. And then maybe go and trade for a Josh McCown. I was told that the Browns are looking for something like a third rounder for him, which I believe that would have been just as good because you're just looking for a stopgap. Josh McCown is somebody you could bring in as a stopgap quarterback until Teddy Bridgewater. If it's a year, if it's 2 years, that's fine. You don't need to go out and trade for Sam Bradford. It's just another thing where Teddy's going to come back. Sam Bradford's going to be on the bench. He's not going to be happy. It's going to be a bad situation. And to give up a first-round pick for that, it's kind of funny to me. But the reason I say it's a little bit of a Jay Cutler syndrome is because Sam Bradford never, ever gets the chance to be with the same offensive coordinator. He has never had an offensive coordinator for more than 2 years. It's the same thing with Jay Cutler. These guys can never, ever, ever learn an offense if you do not give them some consistency. So the fact that Sam Bradford's traded a week before the season begins is just going to – it's even worse. So, I mean, the guy has no time to learn the system. He's just going to walk in there, and it's just like, what do you expect him to do? He's literally set up to fail right now. And on top of that, he's been a disappointment throughout his entire career. So I don't have high expectations for Bradford. I don't think it was a trade that needed to be done. I think Josh McCown would have sufficed for a lot cheaper for that situation.
Wow, you are right, Mike. You do get feistier without your notebook. This is great. But I think people acknowledge that Bradford was going to be a game manager. I don't think, from a fantasy perspective, I don't think any of us would say, hey, he's, in the definite quarterback 2 conversation. I think it's more about what this does to guys like Diggs, what it does to guys like Peterson. I mean, obviously Peterson was going to be probably successful no matter who's back there, but it's just a matter of how successful. So, Brandon, how do you feel about guys like Peterson and Diggs with this news?
I feel the same. Because actually, Sam Bradford and Teddy Bridgewater were actually right next to each other in our Pro Football Focus grades for last season. And believe it or not, Sam Bradford had a really tough start to the season, but he ended up our 12th highest scoring Pro Football Focus rated quarterback on the season. And right behind him, number 13, was Teddy Bridgewater. Again, I think that the whole role in Minnesota is being a game manager and not really having to do a lot of plays. So that's fine. I think that, when it comes to the number 1 reads, usually Sam Bradford's okay. You just don't want him improving. You don't want him on the run. You don't want him being creative. That's when things go really, really wrong.
You don't want him being Sam Bradford.
Yeah, you don't want him to Bradford out on you. But as long as he goes in there and says, oh, I have Adrian Peterson, then everything is fine, frankly. I would say that my feeling is kind of the opposite of Mr. Tagliere. I would say that I thought this was a really interesting, great move by the Minnesota Vikings because it was very clear to me that they're saying, we think we can go to the Super Bowl. And we thought that before Teddy Bridgewater got hurt. Their team was really, really psychologically freaked out by what happened. And I think this gives them a little kick in the pants again. I think if they would have waited, they wouldn't have won as many games. They wouldn't have had the same vigor going into the season.
But wait a minute.
I don't think Bradford's great, but I think that this gives them some hope. I think they're a Super Bowl caliber team.
But can you see Sam Bradford leading a team to a championship? I don't.
Well, I didn't see Peyton Manning leading the Broncos to a championship either, but their defense was so good. And the Vikings defense is really, really good. And Adrian Peterson's better than CJ Anderson. I mean, I think that people are changing their point of views a lot of what's been happening. Same thing with the Seattle Seahawks. People didn't really consider it Russell Wilson that was taking him to the Super Bowl, although, I could disagree with that. But the point is that having a strong defense and just having a good running game is now a new formula for success. And I think the Vikings believe in that. And Philadelphia just basically said to their fans, we're not going to win this year. I mean, that's all they said.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and look, it's probably just an acknowledgement of what they had done up to this point, right? Trading up to draft Wentz, that's not a move that a team that's like on the cusp of a Super Bowl makes. That's a rebuilding move right there. And with Bradford, I think I probably agree more with you, Brandon, than Mike. I mean, you got with Bridgewater, I mean, you can't look at it as just this season. I mean, it's very possible he's not ready to go the start of next season. So this isn't just about, hey, we need someone to fill in the gap for this season. And, I tend to side with Brandon. I think I have a little more optimistic outlook on Bradford. And again, that's not to say he's going to be anywhere close to a, quarterback 1, but is he going to be good enough to where he doesn't cost them games and possessions and stuff like that? I think you probably could. And to Brandon's point, this is it for them. I mean, this is the window. You've got Adrian Peterson with who knows how many good years left, and you've got that last
year. This is last year in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, then there you go. Then that's.
I think that's all in.
Go for it, And look, let's remember they were one missed field goal away, really botched field goal away from being a, a top 8 team in the NFL last season.
Well, that's the thing. And I'm not saying that Minnesota shouldn't have gone for it. I think they absolutely should have. I know that their window is there. I still think they have a good young team, regardless Adrian Peterson gone or not. My issue is the fact that Sam Bradford isn't worth what they paid. My issue is that Josh McCown can be had for cheaper. He's a veteran and he's a more stable quarterback. Sam Bradford is not a game manager. He's not an Alex Smith. Josh McCown can be that. Josh McCown is more like a chameleon. He just turns into whatever offense he needs to play, and he's fine. I think Josh McCown, and the thing is, they're calling the Peyton Manning thing, that's more of an exception to the rule. Like, if you go through the quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls over the last 10, 15, 20 years, 90% of them are really good quarterbacks. And Sam Bradford is not good. Like, I was actually a person that when Bradford came in the league, my friends still give me crap about it to this day because I said that Sam Bradford would be a top 5 quarterback. But the problem is, 1, he hasn't been as good as I thought. 2, injuries have really eaten him up. And 3, he has no consistency at the offensive coordinator position. And when you change his head coach and offensive scheme a week before the season, that is not going to help matters. The guy's now on his 3rd NFL team in like a year and a half. His confidence is probably shot. I just don't have any confidence in Sam Bradford anymore.
I agree with you. I mean, I will say that's totally true. But I think this was obviously the circumstance. It's clearly not ideal. But I think that they believe, and I think it was probably a tough decision, that Sam Bradford's more likely to make it through 16 games than Josh McCown. Which I think is debatable, of course, but he did it last season. I think there are things to think about. I think but Josh McCown is not young, and last year he went in and out of being healthy, in and out of being a starter. I agree with you. I actually am a big McCown fan. I thought he did some really good work over the last few years here, and especially for fantasy owners. But I don't know. I mean, I think to me, I guess I would say it's tomato. If anything, I'd be more upset that I could have gotten Mark Sanchez for free. And I know Mark Sanchez isn't Sam Bradford, but still, he's free, not a first-round draft pick, and that all happened on the same day. So You're right. I mean, when you're talking about price, I mean, once Brock Osweiler started making crazy amounts of money, to me, anything's possible with these quarterbacks. It's like all downhill, right? And good for Brock. He's taking his job very seriously. I'm not trying to mock him, but to pay him that much money, basically sight unseen, I was crazy. And now it's just anything goes. I think it's the market, not Sam Bradford.
Yeah, and just a couple last things on that. So I know Minnesota had a couple extra draft picks, like in the 3rd and 4th round. So, I mean, they probably thought to themselves, hey, we can afford to not pick in the 1st because they've got some multiple picks in later rounds. But yeah, the bottom line is it's about not just this year, but next year too. I think, and to your point, Mike, if you need a really good quarterback, I don't know that Teddy Bridgewater was, an exceptionally good quarterback that, fits that profile, though.
He's more of the game manager. I think he's more the game manager type. And I think that his legs could have at least salvaged something. I just, I can't get on board with Sam Bradford as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I just don't see that happening.
Well, whatever the odds are, it'll be interesting, and that'd be a good bet actually. If it's like going off at 40 or 50 to 1, that'd be fun. Anyway, probably the other notable roster move over the weekend. So a little bit of a surprise. You had Justin Forsett in Baltimore cut, which left essentially Terrence West and Buck Allen as really the only healthy running backs going there right now. Obviously, Kenneth Dixon is it PUP or the NFI list? One of those lists where he's injured. He won't be playing for a couple weeks. So, Mike, and by the way, Justin Forsett, who was widely assumed to re-sign with the Ravens, has not officially done so yet. So we can't assume anything at this point. So, Mike, what do you make of Baltimore's running back situation? Is it just completely something to avoid? Are you going all in for Terrence West? What are you doing?
Well, somebody asked me that, and the thing is with Forsett, I know he said, I'll let you guys know when I sign. I didn't see his actual Twitter profile, but I did hear, I think it was like an hour ago, that I think he actually officially is back on the roster. I think, I mean, there's so many rumors floating around, it's tough to say, but, and the reason I say that is because I think Ian Rappaport said something about to the fact that he signed, he was brought back under the same salary with an additional $100,000 in incentives. So the idea that they cut him makes no sense to me. I don't know why they did it, if they wanted to keep somebody else in the roster, but then, to let him kind of hang out there and then bring him back for the same exact amount of money. If they were trying to save some money, I guess I could have seen it, but supposedly he came back under the same conditions. I don't know. but I'm not touching Justin Forsett with a 10-foot pole. I know there's people out there saying, if somebody dropped him on your waiver wire, grab him. I'm not doing that. I didn't like Justin Forsett before he was cut. I don't like him after he was cut. I don't like him when he rejoined the team. I think that Buck Allen is a better receiver at this point in his career. I think that Terrence West and Dixon are better runners at this point in their careers. I think that's why they felt him expendable at this point. And for people that think that he was going to have a significant role in week 1, you tell me the last time a team cut a player that they plan to use heavily in week 1, and I will show you a liar, because it just doesn't happen. This guy, he's going to catch some passes. He'll have somewhat of a role. It just becomes a messy situation. Me, personally, I'm avoiding all of it. And if you're able to grab Kenneth Dixon off the waiver wire, maybe after week 2, because he should be back by, I think, week 3 or week 4, I might do that, because I think he's the most talented running back on that team.
Brandon, what about you? What are you making of the Baltimore running back situation?
I think I've said on this show probably 5 to 7 times that the entire Baltimore depth chart is a mystery. I don't know who's the tight end. I don't know who's the number 1 wide receiver. I don't know who's the number 1 running back. I know Joe Flacco is still playing on the team.
He is. We can confirm that. And he's starting, by the way. He is the starter.
I'm pretty sure he's the starter. I don't know. These people are nuts. My problem is he never stopped being the number 1 running back on the depth chart. In fact, they released one yesterday, and he still was listed as the starter. I find this whole thing bizarre. I'm starting to wonder if it's an intern, like what they did with Kobe Fleener, all of a sudden being the 4th guy on the roster.
Well,
did someone mistakenly cut him?
And that may not have been an intern. That may have been a motivational tactic. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, it's Kobe Fleener, man, right? But I mean, I don't know. So I am trying to avoid the whole situation because, again, a lot of people are going really all in on Terrence West. But if Kenneth Dixon comes back healthy, I think he's the number 1 guy. Here's the problem, though, and this is my feeling about Derrick Henry. This is my feeling about Mr. Williams over there in Oakland and all these other rookie running backs that are supposedly going to come and take everyone's jobs from them. What happens? Well, we saw it a lot last year. Ball security and blocking. And until I see that both of those things are happening at the normal rate of an NFL game, I have a difficult time believing that these veterans are just going to automatically be ousted. Now, I don't know if it's going to be Terrence West or Justin Forsett, but Kenneth Dixon's going to have to prove that he can hold on to the ball and that he can block for Joe Flacco, because they need to protect Joe Flacco. He's coming off of an injury as well. So I just think that this whole thing's a disaster. I'm trying to stay far away. If you have Justin Forsett, I don't think you should drop him necessarily, because we just don't know. We just don't know.
Well, and I think we can all agree if we had to pick, well, not pick one, but the best all-around running back probably left, or at least the most upside, is probably Dixon. Are we all in agreement on that as far as biggest upside of those 4?
Yes.
So if you're going to get one and you've got a roster deep enough and you can afford to have a guy sit there for a month or 2, because it will be a good month or 2 before Dixon makes any impact, I think we might go ahead and make that move. So, all right, one more topic before we get to our starts and sits for week 1. Jamal Charles, Spencer Ware, a lot of discussion, a lot of hot takes on that. Mike, I know you are very high on Spencer Ware in week 1. Why don't you tell us, and then Brandon will proceed to piss all over that.
If this all hinges on the fact that Jamal Charles is out, by the way.
Right.
If Jamal Charles is playing, it's going to lower my expectations just a little bit. But upon my initial projections that I did for week 1, Spencer Ware I have locked in as a top 8 running back for week 1. I have my own personal situation where I have to decide between him and Frank Gore in one of my flex spots, and I'm going with Spencer Ware. Going against a Chargers team, there were just 5 teams in all of last year that didn't rush for 100 yards against the Chargers. The Chargers are still bad against the run. They lost Eric Weddle this offseason. He was kind of like their defensive leader. Joey Bosa appears not to be ready for week 1. I think they expected him to kind of catch on quickly, but supposedly he's having some muscle tightness, and that's going to happen when you participate in none of the training camp stuff. So their run defense, if you watch them throughout the preseason, the Chargers' run defense is still extremely bad. The Chiefs will be at home, and that is a place where it's a really tough place for opponents to play. So, I know we're going to talk about some week 1 plays, starts and sits later in the show here, but I will tell you this. Phillip Rivers is somebody you should be very afraid to start. They don't move the ball extremely well against the Chiefs. Phillip Rivers last year, there were 3 games in which the Chiefs didn't allow a passing touchdown last year. 2 of them came against Phillip Rivers. When you're playing in KC, they do say that it's one of the toughest places to play, similar to Seattle. The crowd noise is extremely loud. And then when you figure the type of offense that Kansas City runs, it's ball control. And if Phillip Rivers isn't getting things done through the air like really quick, you're not going to remove Spencer Ware from this game. He worked on his receiving all offseason. You know, I had someone come at me on Twitter saying, you know, you're overrating him because, you know, he didn't catch many balls last year. All offseason, I paid attention to Spencer Ware because I believe in the kid's ability. He worked on his passing skills, and it showed in the preseason. 8 targets, 8 catches. He's the goal line back there. They won 11 straight games on the backs of Charkandrick West and Spencer Ware. Charkandrick West was banged up towards the end of preseason. There are so many factors playing into this. Spencer Ware is locked into a guy who's going to see at least 18 touches in week 1 and possibly one of the best matchups in the entire NFL.
Okay, Brandon, bombs away.
Oh, no, I completely agree with this. This I'm all into. If you're playing daily, if you are swinging for the fences, or you have them on your bench and you got some other guys in bad matchups, absolutely love it. What I don't agree with is drafting Spencer Ware for your season-long league at the same time that Jamal Charles is being drafted.
That's crazy.
And I understand that everyone's very high on him and his talent. Spencer is great. Every single contact I have in Kansas City has told me that, first of all, none of this is a surprise if you've paid attention to the team at all. They were very clear from the beginning of the preseason that they were going to ease in Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles is the star, and they want to protect them. Also, a very good football team, much like the Minnesota Vikings, that kind of is silently one of the better teams in the league. And especially their offense is looking very, very good. So they don't want to mess anything up, and they know they have Spencer Ware. So this all makes sense. You guys, it's one game. I don't understand why Le'Veon Bell is a first-round pick, no problems, and he's going to miss 3 games, we know for sure, and he's always injured. But Jamal Charles misses 1 game, and now you can get him in the 5th round? What? We're not even quite sure he's going to miss the game. That's the other thing, and I'm totally with Mike on this. If he doesn't miss the game, then it's a little dicier for Spencer Ware. But absolutely, if Jamal Charles is ruled out, you should go with Spencer Ware. But for this season, I believe the Kansas City Chiefs still believe that Jamal Charles is the man who can do everything on that offense. They're going to ease him in. It's everything we've been talking about. That's why he's not a first-round pick, you guys. If he wasn't going to get eased in, he should be in the 1st round. I mean, he's that kind of talent that you can now get in the 3rd or 4th round. It's already baked into his ranking, you guys. I don't understand why everyone's freaking out. It's a non-news issue to me.
No, well, the thing is, the whole thing about Jamal Charles going to the 5th round, that's just nuts. Now, me personally, before this whole thing happened with Charles, before I knew he was going to miss any games, I wasn't as big as fan of Charles as some others. I actually, in my bold predictions article on PFF, I said that Jamal Charles doesn't finish as a top 10 running back. And that's before we found out that he was going to miss any time. So that was before then. I really felt like Spencer Ware was going to eat into some of his work, especially around the goal line. And then, you know, Charkandrick West can catch the ball out of the backfield better than a Nile Davis could. So, you know, there was reasons that the Chiefs gave these guys contract extensions before even knowing the status of Jamal Charles. He's coming off his 2nd torn ACL, and he's almost 30 years old. He'll be 30 at the end of the season. So there is cause for concern with Jamal Charles, but to go into the 5th round's nuts. I like Jamal Charles as a 3rd round pick. Like I'll take him in the start of the 3rd round because, you know, those first 2 rounds you're looking for safe picks, but once you get in the 3rd and 4th round, you're looking for upside, and Jamal Charles has got it.
Yeah, I think if you rolled with him as your 2nd running back and got some, you know, some plug-ins behind him, that could potentially pay off very well for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get to our starts and sits for week 1. All right, welcome back. And so week 1 is upon us. Finally, we will finally have some regular season, actual game action to talk about and dissect and pour over for probably far too longer than we probably should have. But nonetheless, here we are. So week 1 starts on Thursday, obviously, the rest of the slate on Sunday. Let's go through some starts and sits, you two. Some guys that are maybe on the fence of being started, on the fence of being sat. Some people might have questions on what we would do. So let's go in order of position, let's start with quarterbacks. Brandon, you're up first. Who is a good start and a good sit for you?
Well, if you're looking at a borderline guy, I think the Indianapolis Colts defense is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'm
Agreed.
over-exaggerating that. Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
You're one of the late-round quarterback guys, and you want to put it together. I think that Matthew Stafford going up against Lions, I think he wants to try out, or going up against the Colts, I think he wants to try out a lot of his new weapons. I think that they're looking to solidify their offense in a way without Calvin Johnson. I think there's going to be a really good focus on making sure that they get down the field and score fast. And they know that they're going up against a weak defense. So I think they're going to do that, even though it's in Indianapolis, which might be why some people will shy away. I actually still really like him. And I think it's going to be a bit of a shootout. So I'm okay with Andrew Luck too. I don't love Andrew Luck this year. The offensive line is just so terrifying to me. So, but you know, he's going to have to throw the ball. So it goes back and forth.
It seems like there's always a shootout in Indianapolis anyway. So yeah. I think that's a good call. Mike, what about you? Quarterback, starting and sitting.
I got two I'll give you for starters. Matthew Stafford was a good one, by the way. One being Derek Carr. Derek Carr is being drafted outside the top 12 quarterbacks, so I'm guessing he'll be one of those guys that people are wondering whether they should start him or someone like, you know, if you had Derek Carr and Ben Roethlisberger, I'm probably leaning with Derek Carr. There were 10 quarterbacks who threw for more than 300 yards against the Saints last year, and they did that on limited attempts too. Like, you didn't have to throw the ball a bunch against the Saints last year and to do damage. It was a record set for most passing touchdowns in a single season. 45 touchdowns were thrown against them. So it wasn't just that one Eli Manning game. No, that wasn't it. The next highest total was 36 touchdowns. So when you look at this, Drew Brees, he throws a lot more touchdowns at home as well. So this is going to be a game of, you know, back and forth between the Raiders and the Saints. So I like Derek Carr. Another person I like, actually, that, you know, most people might be shocked, is I like Mac. He's going to be at home against the Bucs team that he traditionally does really well at home against. If you look over the last 2 years, Matt Ryan at home against the Bucs, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then 397 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. So that I like Matt Ryan, especially at home against a Bucs defense. This is a Bucs team that their defense is not very good. That could be a back and forth game that I'm going to like to watch. One name I'm probably staying away from outside of Phillip Rivers, who I talked about. I think I have Phillip Rivers outside my top 20 quarterbacks this week, which is just kind of crazy. But is Ben Roethlisberger. I know the over-under on this game is 50, which is really, really high with Washington. And I know why people want to love Roethlisberger, because, you know, Washington was terrible against the pass last year, and it makes all this sense. But if you look at Ben Roethlisberger, home versus road, over the last 3 years, he throws just 1.2 touchdowns on the road per game over the last 3 years, compared to 2.4 at home, like double. Like, he's just not very good. On top of that, he's going back to life without Martavis Bryant. He's going to be missing Heath Miller, which was his safety blanket. He doesn't even have the guy they replaced him with, Ladarius Green. Le'Veon Bell's not there. I could see this being a very D'Angelo Williams heavy game in Washington, living up to that over-under, whatever that is. But Ben Roethlisberger is somebody I'm a little skeptical to start on the road in week 1.
That could also mean Antonio Brown catches 25 balls in week 1, and that's
well, remember, though, people forget that, though, too, is that Washington, even though they were bad last year, adding Josh Norman definitely helps your secondary. Like, regardless of how, like, if you don't think Josh Norman's elite, he's still good enough to make a secondary better. So it's going to be a little bit tougher than it normally would. So yeah, I'm fading Ben. I can understand he might throw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I might throw out there Eli too as a starter. He's at Dallas, which, as we all know, Dallas defense not necessarily the best in the world, and you know, much like the Colts, there always seems to be a shootout whenever you play the Cowboys. So Eli could be interesting, and then obviously all that goes with that, but.
Well, the Eli thing, real quick, more. Eli last year was an interesting stat, and I know that Dallas wasn't a great team, so that could have played into it. Eli, there were 2 games last year in which Eli didn't throw a touchdown. Both of them were against the Cowboys.
Interesting. Well, then we'll just see what happens, Mike. We'll have another bet on that. That'll be fun.
I'm not betting on that.
Brandon.
You know who I like? Kirk Cousins. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, he's a good start.
Oh yeah, he'd be good.
Against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, running backs. Who are you starting? Who are you sitting?
You know, Charles Sims has a great matchup for a pass catching back. The Atlanta Falcons gave up the absolute most yards up in the air to running backs last season. So I know that they're trying to improve on the defensive side of the ball, but I still think that they're going to do a little 1-2 punch with Doug Martin and Charles Sims there. So he's definitely a guy that people have as like the flex play. And this is one of the weeks that you should absolutely start him. As far as the other guys are concerned, you know, there are so many interesting calls here. We talked about Spencer Ware already. And again, the Chargers are just sad, you know, really. And I'm not trying to be, you know, completely disrespectful, but really it's not good.
Sad. You can say sad or not good. Anything politically correct you can say. It's fine.
I will also say that I think that you're going to learn a lot about the Washington backfield. I'm not starting any of them, but I think someone will emerge in week 1, and that might be someone you start in week 2.
Okay. Mike, how about you? Running backs you're starting and sitting?
You know, one who's actually taken a bump in my rankings recently is Matt Forte. He's moving up, you know, and you look at the week 1 matchup and it looks tough, and it is. You know, Cincinnati Bengals is a tough matchup, but at the same time, there were 5 teams in the NFL that allowed over 100 receptions to running backs last year. The Bengals were one of them. So when you look at what Matt Forte does well, and especially at this point in his career, it's catch the ball out of the backfield. And the Bengals, on top of those receptions they allowed, you know, they averaged 50 yards a game to running backs through the air. So, you know, the Jets just cut Kyrie Robinson, so that frees up a little bit of goal line opportunity as well. Not that Forte's ever been good on the goal line, but, you know, he's made it work to this point. He's been an elite running back for a long time without scoring a ton of touchdowns. I don't think that really changes with the Jets. A few names I'm staying away from. Jay Ajayi, obviously. First off, Arian Foster was announced the starter for the Dolphins today, and they're playing against Seattle in Seattle. So it's not something that you tend to do. You don't want to play running backs in that situation.
So Jay Ajayi might let Arian Foster go on that one.
Yeah, well, he should.
Hey, man, you have at it. Like, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, Foster's just going to catch the ball out of the backfield. That's what he'll do in that game. But another name that honestly people might not be happy to hear is Derrick Henry. I probably wouldn't touch Henry in week 1 against the Vikings. I know they're at home and that it should be, I guess, a close game. But this is more of like a ball control game where both teams are just going to be trying to run the crap out of the ball. And it's not really going to work too well against the Vikings front, whereas DeMarco Murray is the pass-catching running back there. They might be able to get more going through the air there. So I think it's too early to project your Derrick Henry breakout in week 1. Give that some time to kind of work its way into a better matchup, one where game script will actually fit it. I just don't see any way that Tennessee beats Minnesota, even though Sam Bradford's starting.
Yeah, another name I might throw out there as far as starting. I mean, it looks like Isaiah Crowell's going to be handling first and second down duties in Cleveland.
He's been clearly, we haven't talked about that. That is a huge deal for all these Duke Johnson believers. He's been clearly the leader all preseason.
That and a very tasty matchup in week 1, Philadelphia, who, by the way, gave up the most rushing yards per game last year. So I think Crowell could be a sneaky one, too. I mean, certainly not, I don't think anywhere close to running back 1 numbers, but I think you could probably solidly start him as a running back 2 for week 1 anyway. So
yeah, it's actually, I like that.
All right, wide receivers, Mike, you're up.
Wide receivers. All right, if we're looking for one down the board that I'd play that people might be thinking about it, and if you're looking for a flex or something like that and you don't want to play one of the Baltimore running backs, Michael Thomas is an interesting week 1 play for me. We talked about the Raiders and the Saints and how it should be a back and forth type of game. But of all the matchups on the field, Kobe Fleener and Michael Thomas actually have the best matchups of them because, you know, Oakland's actually, they're starting to shore up their secondary a bit, but it's the middle of the field. Thomas should be matched up with Hayden quite a bit, and that's never a bad thing for your wide receiver. So, I mean, this could be like a little – like if you're looking for a deeper play, Michael Thomas is someone that I would look to play. If you're looking for a better like player to talk about, I guess it'd be like Dante Moncrief. And I know that we've all been over Dante Moncrief, but there's still a lot of people out there that ask me about trades involving Moncrief that don't make sense. Where I'm like, yes, take Moncrief. Yeah. Somebody earlier was like, should I trade Arian Foster to get Moncrief? I'm like, yes, like do it now before he takes it back. But we're projecting him at PFF in our wide receiver cornerback matchup kit for the DFS. We're projecting Nevin Lawson to line up against Moncrief, and then Darius Slay to match up with T.Y. Hilton, which is a really, really good thing for Moncrief. So he could blow up in week 1. A name that I would stay away from in week 1, honestly, I'm not excited to play Jeremy Maclin. And the reason I say that is, they're going to be playing against San Diego, and it's just a matchup that it's starting to look worse and worse on your matchup. Especially if you're a number 1 wide receiver, because you're going to be matched up with why am I forgetting his name right now? San Diego corner.
Flowers.
No, not Flowers. He sucks. Oh, God, I can't remember his name right now. He got hurt. Oh, I'm going to remember it. But Jeremy Maclin is a name that I'm not really excited about for week 1, or even Larry Fitzgerald. I could say Larry Fitzgerald because he's matched up with Logan Ryan and the Patriots. I think it's going to be a run-heavy script for the Cardinals. I don't think there's any need to pass the ball a ton.
Jason Verrett.
Jason Verrett, there you go. Yeah, Verrett's he's a shutdown corner. He's an emerging talent, and he shadows opposing number 1s. Jeremy Maclin is clearly that for Kansas City. But Logan Ryan's also going to be shadowing Larry Fitzgerald against New England. So that's probably a matchup I would try to avoid as well.
All right, Brandon, what about you? Receivers to start and sit.
Well, I want all my Sammy Watkins to continue happening.
Right.
I mean, hello, against the Ravens. I can't say enough about Sammy Watkins. And then actually like Tyrod Taylor's another quarterback too.
And I feel like this is the last week like ever where Sammy Watkins will fly under any sort of radar, because like he's still not being thought of as a wide receiver 1, and he very well should be. I mean, even on the fringe there,
Yeah. I'm a little concerned about Mike Evans this week in Atlanta. That's the only thing they're good at defending. And I hope this doesn't get in Mike Evans' head, and we also have another weird session with him. I'm really hoping that's not the case. But I think AJ Green's going to try to debunk Revis Island a little bit. It's a contrarian play.
That's definitely contrarian, but
you're doing DFS. I think Cincinnati has something to prove against the Jets that weekend, and I think he will have 0% ownership, basically, because everyone's going all in on getting cheap Dak Prescott, cheap Spencer Ware, and then getting Julio and Antonio Brown and calling it a day. And, I mean, literally every single matchup looks like that right now, or with Odell Beckham Jr. They're trying to everybody.
Just give away my strategy, so.
Yeah, but I wonder if, like, an AJ Green... Yeah, Sammy Watkins combo is interesting to me and could maybe set you apart in DFS land. Just looking at some contrarian picks here. But I think that DeAndre Hopkins against the Bears looks good to me.
Yeah, they might be down their top 3 cornerbacks in that game, the Bears, and their secondary is not even good to begin with.
I think this also means Will Fuller. I think they're going to try to get him a touchdown in his first game in the National Football League. Yeah. And I think this is the week to do it. So he's going to be someone that is, again, not someone you really want to always start. But in the flex, I'm very comfortable with a Will Fuller in the flex.
Oh, yeah. Well, and speaking of another rookie, and I'm sticking with the Browns here, but I like Corey Coleman this week. I don't think a lot of people are talking about him either. And again, he's playing Philadelphia. Some people have said Philadelphia improved their defense a lot in the offseason. I don't know. I didn't see a whole lot. But I mean, Coleman is probably the most talented receiver, at least that's healthy right now and not suspended in Cleveland. And I think he's probably going to get a majority of the attention there. And yeah, I think he could have a sneaky good day on that. But
I think the reason that you haven't heard much about him is because you didn't see him in preseason. Like you didn't really see anything out of him in preseason. The talk was all there before preseason, and then it died down. So I like Corey Coleman.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right, so let's finish off with tight ends. Brandon, lead us off.
Oh, tight ends. They're just such a little disaster, right?
Tight end for week 1? You can. You should. Just none of them.
Again, no one, I feel bad. This whole show is going to be about the Browns, but no one talks about Gary Barnidge. And I think this guy is legit talent against the Eagles.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles defense is actually going to prove to be better than we think they are. Last season, they were completely torn down because Chip Kelly's offense is just so hurry up that their defense never has time to catch their breath.
Right.
Sorry, San Francisco again. I don't want to, sorry. But I think that, Gary Barnidge is someone that no one's talking about still. It's unbelievable. Whenever people draft him, everyone's like, oh, I guess I have to draft Gary Barnidge. And I'm like, yeah, draft Gary Barnidge. And I know he's only had one good year in the National Football League, and that is a valid argument. But I think that everything kind of stayed in place or got better for him. Yeah. So I like that. So for me, he's someone that I'm definitely eyeing. If you are really, really, really desperate, I know some of you are.
Some of you are.
I like Lance Kendricks against San Francisco in that Monday Night Football game.
Todd Gurley's going to score all the points in that game.
I know, but I think that just putting it out there. You know me and my Lance Kendricks. I do. I love San Francisco's so sorry again.
They're bad. It's okay.
Don't talk about the 49ers.
They're bad.
Yeah, I thought we were going to block them out. You're right. I shouldn't mention them.
Call it right now. Okay. They are
also, though, another bad defense, though, is the Cowboys. And if Will Tye is the starter, I think he's an intriguing guy for this matchup as well. And again, someone that no one has talked about at all.
Well, and I think that Giants tight end situation is just, they're purposely rotating him and Donnell out. They're purposely not giving anyone any indication on that.
Nope.
So that would be very risky, I think, to go. But yeah, if you pick the right one, the one that starts and plays most of the time, yeah, it's a pretty good play. So.
Well, the problem, he played in the 4th preseason game, and I think he was in the 4th quarter, which is never a good sign for a starting tight end. So Will Tye, I had to back off my love because I do love Will Tye. I think he'll be the starting tight end by season's end, but I worry about him now. My tight end that is a must play that is teetering, because I know I'm trying to stick with players that you might be thinking about, so I'm not going to be like, yeah, start, Kobe Fleener. But Dwayne Allen is somebody that you should be playing in week 1. When he's healthy, you should have him in your lineup most of the time, especially for this matchup. Detroit allowed the 4th most points to tight ends last year, but here's the most important part. They allowed the most touchdowns to them, 12. They allowed 12 tight end touchdowns in 16 games. It's a dream for Dwayne Allen. Like we talked about Darius Slay lining up against T.Y. Hilton, Moncrief, but with as much scoring as there should be in this game, Dwayne Allen should be one of those guys to find the end zone. And that's what you're always shooting for when you're looking at tight ends. You're looking at huge upside, touchdown potential. In the opposite end of that, I am totally fading, as I have done this entire offseason, Martellus Bennett.
Thank you.
I saw him drafted the other day before Antonio Gates, before Dwayne Allen, before Zach Ertz, and I was like, why? I don't get it. We're talking about a second tight end on a team. You want to think that he's Aaron Hernandez, but he's not. He does not use in a joker role. Like, he doesn't line up as a wide receiver. He doesn't line up as a fullback. He's the second tight end, and we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. I think you should have enough worries about what he can do for the pass catchers, Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski, before we're talking about the second tight end on the team. So yeah, I'm staying far and away from Martellus Bennett.
One more I might be cautious with. I think Greg Olsen might be a little. It's just going to be very tough to, I think, score points on that defense, along with the nagging injury that he's got. And again, that's not to say, oh, you should drop Greg Olsen, but I just think people probably need to not expect a typical Greg Olsen day from Greg Olsen this week, right? Or is he all systems go and he's going to do his thing?
I'm okay with Olsen. The reason I say that is Kelvin Benjamin is banged up. And if there's one part of the Broncos defense that struggled just a little bit, it was covering tight ends. And it's not like they were horrible against tight ends or anything like that. But when you're talking about, you have to look at targets that'll go around. Denver stops the run extremely well. They get to the quarterback extremely fast. So when you're doing that, you're looking for the quicker routes. Kelvin Benjamin doesn't really do that. Ted Ginn doesn't do that. Greg Olsen is the safety blanket. So right now, my first set of projections have him as the most targeted tight end in week 1. I have him down at 9 targets, which is a lot, I know. But Kelvin Benjamin, they're saying he's going to be on a snap count, which is concerning considering his injury took place over a year ago. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of many of the Panthers this week, but if there's one that I'd feel safe with, yeah, Greg Olsen should be fine.
Can I make an embarrassing
absolutely anything embarrassing? I'm totally
please do.
So It's Labor Day, so I'm a little out of it. I'm not gonna lie. Sober though, sober. But
Right.
I highlighted this Giants game, and I thought it was the Giants I wanted to talk about. It wasn't. It's Jason Witten. What am I talking about? The Giants gave up the absolute most yards to opposing tight ends last season. That makes a little more sense. As I was talking, I hated myself, so I thought I would come out and give the listeners what they need, which is actual advice, and that would be Jason Witten, not Will Tye. Although
we're all human, Brandon. It's okay.
I just wanted to be honest with you, though. Really embarrassing. I saw that. I was like, gosh, that was a weird thing. Normally, I know what I'm talking about. What am I doing?
But that also ties back to the patented Brandon Lee rookie tight end connection with Dak Prescott. So I could jump on board with that. I think I could.
Brandon,
and then just as a side note, Mike, I'm looking at the box score from Super Bowl 50. Greg Olsen did have 9 targets. However, he only caught 4 of them for 41 yards.
Yeah, he'll be okay. No, but Brandon, I think I actually saw it the other day. I should have added you. Someone on Twitter, they actually did research on rookie quarterbacks and how much they target tight ends. And they said the correlation is similar to what it would be with the veteran. But I'll say this about Jason Witten. I love that call because Jason, and I don't know what the chemistry is going to be like between Prescott and Witten, but Jason Witten, I think the number was, I wish I had my notebook in front of me. I think there's 4 of his last 8 games against the Giants. He's scored multiple touchdowns.
He loves the Giants. He loves the Giants.
Yeah.
So, that would be a good one that, again, I think a lot of people may be sleeping on as far as Witten goes. So, all right. Well, that will do it for this edition of the Fantasy Slant. It's good to talk about regular season action again. For Brandon, Marianne Lee, Mike Tagliere, I'm Michael Moore, and we'll see you next time on the Fantasy Slant.